There's a lot of streaming services out there, each filled with reality TV, comedy, drama, and of course, superheroes. But there's one dedicated entirely to nonfiction TV and documentary films, and that's Curiosity Stream. History, science, nature, we've got it. Space, dinosaurs, big cats, we've got that too. And pretty much anything else you want to explore. Go ahead, add some smart TV to your smart TV with Curiosity Stream. Go to curiositystream.com to sign up and start streaming today.
Why does quicksand work so slowly? Question everything. We did. It's how we created the all-new Hyundai Tucson with available innovations like a huge 10.25-inch infotainment screen and digital key technology. And you always get Hyundai's complimentary maintenance for 3 years or 36,000 miles. Test drive the 2022 Hyundai Tucson at your nearest Hyundai dealer or learn more at HyundaiUSA.com. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
All right, back here on Sports Talk, Bobby Hebert, Mike Detillier, Christian Garrick. We welcome in now Eric Eager, VP of Research and Development for Pro Football Focus, joins us now as he does each and every Tuesday. Eric, man, that was an interesting week one for the Saints. I don't think anybody called that, but they look good in dismantling of Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I think probably a fun weekend if you're a Saints fan. They had – I think we talked about this last week. I think the Saints defensively, I think their first string, it'll be tested again with some of the injuries that happened this week. But they still have good players, and the Packers offensive line. I know Elton Jenkins played well, but you lost Lindsley and so forth, and they were very good. And then on the other side of the ball, I mean, the Packers really didn't have an answer for anything the Saints, especially on the ground. But then, of course, Jameis Winston would finish the layups that Sean Payton gave him. So it was really a beautiful thing. And honestly, now I think people just have to worry about not overreacting too much to it and making the Saints prove it again this week.
Now, Eric, is this an overreaction? Because this is a big enough sample size. You look at the interior on defense, but you look at the leadership they got on the back end, that being Marcus Williams and Malcolm Jenkins, and how they've come together, especially on the latter part of the season. The reason why I bring this up, and it's a pass-happy league, but the Saints have the NFL's second longest active streak without allowing a 300-yard passer. Now it's 23 straight games. That's including the postseason that they finished last season. We all know with the NFL's best, number 5, I should say, pass defense. So that's 23 straight games without giving up a 300-yard passer. I want you to comment on that. Then also, how about this? New Orleans holding the Packers to just 3 points. It marks the third time in the Saints' last 10 games that they've held an opponent to 3 points. What? 3 out of 10 to 3 points? Come on. That's dominant this day and age. You hope when you're holding a team like, 17, 18 or the high teens, and you should win.
Yeah, I think even if you look at last season with the Saints and how they played, it was really carried by the defense and how well they played, especially in the division where you have some good offenses in Tampa, as well as Carolina's a sneaky decent offense, and despite how they looked the other day, Atlanta has had a good offense in the past. So yeah, it's very impressive. You wonder how good it can, how well that can carry them. But a stiff test would have been the team that was the one seed in the NFC last year in not even your home stadium, and they passed. Fantastic there. The thing that I'm interested in for the Saints is what happens if the game is turned around a little bit. So what happens? Let's say if what happens if the Saints had to deal with, sort of being behind in a game. Can they sort of play where, they're not necessarily,
so when you talk about, Eric, you talk about like the Chiefs coming back on the Browns? No, I don't think they could do that. But what if they're always setting the tone?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really why when you look at like teams, like I even think like Minnesota's like this a couple years ago, not last year, but that Minnesota team that beat the Saints in the playoffs is, when you're ahead and you have kind of a good ground game and a decent defense, and Saints I think are a lot better, but like you can sort of like run play action a lot. You can sort of do things that have their defense on their heels when you're behind, there's only a few teams that can sort of win those games, right? And I feel like that may be where they fall short. Although, again, like Jameis Winston, for all the interceptions he's thrown, has been a very efficient passer in the NFL. And he looked fantastic the other day. So maybe it's just a matter of not, a sin of omission as opposed to a sin of commission with us, doubting him a little bit in some aspects of the play. But if they're a team that can sort of lean on the other team, get ahead and lean on the other team for a whole game, they're going to be hard to beat.
Now, Eric, to me, they won in 1A, however you describe them, that being Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey. We all know McCaffrey in 2019 was freaking unbelievable. Now, I'm worried about the Panthers running him into the ground. But then you look at Alvin Kamara last year, leading the National Football League in touchdowns with 21. So I'm looking at after week 1, Christian McCaffrey, like the old Christian McCaffrey. Now, I don't know, you play in the Jets, whatever, but still, 30 touches, 187 yards. I'm thoroughly impressed with that. And Mike Detillier and I and Christian were talking about not so much even as a running back, like a lot of times, just him in the passing game. He's a pass receiving running back. It's almost like a long handoff. You think he may be going to give up 4 or 5 yards, then it ends up being double digits. And I bring that up because McCaffrey had 187 yards last week. Alvin, 91 yards total from scrimmage. So what did you take going into Sunday when you look at that matchup? Because you're talking about two of the most explosive guys in the National Football League at that position, that being Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I think that they're two of the rare players at that position that you really have to, like, let's say you're betting on a game or something, and one of those players is out. I think that they're the rare running back that sort of makes a difference in the point spread. Like, I'll say that about them because of the multiplicity that they can offer, right? McCaffrey was actually not. And near the end of the game, he was okay. But during the middle of that game against the Jets, he really wasn't offering much in the run game, right? Like he was, relatively, in the fourth quarter, I believe he had the majority of his 98 yards.
I got you.
And so, but what you get is the 9, and not only was it 9 catches for 89 yards, it was 9 targets, right? So you look and say, okay, every time they threw him the ball out of the backfield, he was averaging 10 yards a play. Even no incompletions, 10 yards a catch. And then, that kind of kept them buoyed. And then when Carolina needed, the Jets actually had a furious comeback at the end. When Carolina needed to close the game out, he was there, right? And you get a lot of that with Kamara. Interestingly, Kamara is a little different in the sense that, like, I've watched a lot of Saints games where instead of grinding the game out because he's so good, he'll break a long run and just add 7 to the Saints score and finish a game that way. Kind of different styles, but two really good backs.
Eric Eager, Pro Football Focus here on Sports Talk. Eric, there's a big debate going on in the Windy City. Should Matt Nagy and company go with Justin Fields or stick with Andy Dalton? What do the numbers say?
Yeah, I think I'd have to defer to Bobby as far as like what it's like to learn the quarterback position. I know it's different now, right? Like when, even like when Aaron Rodgers sat, that was under a different CBA. His contract was 5 years, $7 million. So, they could hang on to him for a while. Right. Nowadays, with the way that the numbers are constructed, you kind of have to find out early. And it's why, like, the Jordan Love thing is interesting because, if he plays well, the Packers have a decision to make almost immediately, right? And that's a tough place to put your team in. I don't have an issue with sitting a guy if it's somebody like Alex Smith ahead of him. But when it's Andy Dalton and your team's not very good, I don't understand the logic in wanting to play him only part-time or wanting to play him against bad teams but not teams like the Rams. Like, I just don't get that. I don't know. I've never played the position, but I feel like, at the position you want to fail quickly and learn and, make mistakes and stuff like that. And only in special circumstances like Kansas City in 2017 is sitting the player, I think, even an option. So if I was a Bears fan, I'd be a little bit disappointed. I think they could have maybe not won the game on Sunday night, but I think they could have made it a little bit more competitive with better QB play. And with Nagy's kind of job on the line, I feel like every game he does this, he's lowering his chances of being the Bears coach long term.
Eric, it's kind of a twofold question here. One, last year we saw the Panthers. They used every draft choice on defense. Your thoughts on the progress of their defense, playing a lot of young kids a year ago, and that lineup is similar in 2021, and how you see the progression there. And secondly, your thoughts overall on Bradley Roby at cornerback. He's a guy who's played in the league. He's played outside. He's played in the nickel position. Your thoughts on Roby, but first question being on the Panthers' young defense and how that has started to come together for Matt Rule.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good players there. I mean, Shaq Thompson's been there for a while, but even you look at like Derek Brown, their highest draft pick last year, he had a productive day. Against the Jets, Brian Burns, I think, is going to be a problem for opposing teams in the league this year. Hassan Reddick, had 5 pressures the other day. So up front, I think they'll be fine. Yeah, Tier Gross-Matos as well as a high draft pick at 4 pressures the other day. In the secondary, they're going to need some players to step up. I mean, you look at J.C. Horn, the top draft pick. He missed 2 tackles the other day. Was okay in coverage, although he gave up a touchdown. Near the end there, Dante Jackson, I believe, got injured in that game. I don't know if he's going to be. I think he might be out for the year. Jeremy Chin had a great season last year, so there's something to like in their secondary, but I don't think it's nowhere near as deep as the Saints is, for example. So and I don't think you can be a defense that you can count on week to week if you are weak in the secondary. So I think they're getting better, and I think that they can exploit a team like the Jets that's struggling up front. But that's not going to be the Saints with Armstead and Ramczyk and so on and so forth. So I don't think that they're going to be a plus in this game, but they're not necessarily moving the wrong direction either as a franchise on that side of the ball. Bradley Roby, the fact that the Saints got Houston to pay all that money in exchange for the draft pick is just sort of another example of them just being in on all, on everything, right? Like,
right.
They want to win, and they know that the one weakness they could have is that guys in their secondary can get hurt, and without Janoris Jenkins there anymore, without Patrick Robinson, as well as I believe Brian Poole as well, like they just needed players there, and he's a good football player, and he was maybe a little miscast in Houston. I think he's good in what the Saints want to do, which is basically play man coverage on the outside.
Now, Eric, I'm bringing this up because, you got to have luck with injuries and all that. I'm looking at the Saints. They're going to host the Washington Football Club in about a month. I think it's on October the 10th. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick is going on injured reserve with a hip injury. I've always been a Ryan Fitzpatrick fan, simply because, a handful of games, he could be as good as it gets, but not necessarily throughout. But if you look at where they're at now with Coach Ron Rivera, he's going with Heineke, and then Kyle Allen. And the reason why I bring that up, Heineke, I read this. I think this is you talk about a franchise not stable. He's going to be the 10th quarterback to start a regular season game for Washington since they released RG3 in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, on one end, they might be kicking themselves for not, re-signing Kirk Cousins. At the other side of the stick, you look at Minnesota and they lost to the Bengals this past week. So maybe screwed if you don't, screwed if you do, type of thing. It's interesting. I always thought that the Fitzpatrick thing was handicapping Washington's 2020 season, right? And I think that going into the 2021 season, you look at that schedule, having to play a first place schedule, they were probably never going to be good enough to compete even with Fitzpatrick. I mean, you have the Saints on your schedule, the Tampa on your schedule, all those teams that are formidable. Last season, the best quarterback they beat was Ben Roethlisberger, and the second best quarterback they beat was probably like Daniel Jones. Like, if you literally look at the quarterbacks they beat last year on their way to 7 wins, it was not impressive at all. And I fear that, like, when people were looking at that team and said, boy, if that team had Ryan Fitzpatrick, they'd be okay, instead of looking at, okay, well, what do they need in 2021 to compete? And that, that's just, that was always the hard thing for them. They'll probably win on Thursday against Daniel Jones, but long term, it's just going to be rough for them because, a lot of things went right for them Sunday. The Chargers had turnovers in the red zone. They had fluky plays, and not being able to come out with a victory was really a bad blow for them.
Eric, I know this isn't this week, but it's the following. Your thoughts on the rookie start for Mac Jones with the Patriots? Overall, I thought he played a pretty solid football game. That's a difficult spot to step in, and you're understanding you're not surrounded by all kind of talent on the offensive side of football for the Patriots. So your thoughts on Mac Jones in his first game as a starter for New England?
I thought he looked great. He was our highest-graded rookie quarterback. He didn't do the flashy things. He didn't do the flashy things that like Trevor Lawrence did or even Zach Wilson did, but he also didn't make the mistakes that those two guys made. And New England really should have won that game. You look at Miami, very similar to last season, gave up some yards but got the turnovers, and we know that's not sustainable. But for another week, it was for the Miami Dolphins. I don't know if you want to win that game if you're New England, obviously, so it hurts. But I think long term, the only thing you could have come out of that game with was positivity. I mean, he looked like he knew what he was doing out there. He was accurate. He threw from different arm angles. Like, you like seeing that. He moved around in the pocket okay too. He was certainly, I think, the better of the two quarterbacks in the game between him and Tua Tagovailoa.
Eric Eager, Pro Football Focus. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it, Eric. Look forward to talking to you next week.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Take care, Eric.
All right, he's the VP of Research and Development at Pro Football Focus. Bobby Hebert, Mike Detillier, Christian Garrick. Sports Talk rolls on here on WWL.
I'm Erin Ryan, political commentator, comedy writer, and host of Crooked Media's Hysteria.
And I'm co-host Alyssa Mastromonaco, former White House Deputy Chief of Staff for President Obama.
Each week on Hysteria, we are joined by a team of hilariously opinionated ladies to discuss the headlines from the serious to the absurd.
We cover everything from reproductive rights to rom-coms and break down the political news of the week and cultural stories that affect women's lives.
New episodes of Hysteria drop every Thursday. Listen on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
There's a lot of streaming services out there, each filled with reality TV, comedy, drama, and of course, superheroes. But there's one dedicated entirely to nonfiction TV and documentary films, and that's Curiosity Stream. History, science, nature, we've got it. Space, dinosaurs, big cats, we've got that too. And pretty much anything else you want to explore. Go ahead, add some smart TV to your smart TV with Curiosity Stream. Go to curiositystream.com to sign up and start streaming today.
Why does quicksand work so slowly? Question everything. We did. It's how we created the all-new Hyundai Tucson with available innovations like a huge 10.25-inch infotainment screen and digital key technology. And you always get Hyundai's complimentary maintenance for 3 years or 36,000 miles. Test drive the 2022 Hyundai Tucson at your nearest Hyundai dealer or learn more at HyundaiUSA.com. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.